Hello, everybody, and today we recap what has been both a great but disappointing year. What it turns out to be after the 38-7 loss that Minnesota took today by hand of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, before anything starts, I want to say do not blame Case Keenum for this loss. He wasn't to blame. I feel like we really struggled blocking these ends, and there was that one fumble that was caused because David Morgan was asked to come across the field and block Derek Barnett, who ended up getting a piece of it, and thus fumbles happen. So, but yeah, this is gonna be more of a reaction almost than a recap. But yeah, they outgained us 456 to 333, so that's over 100 yards. They had the ball for almost 10 more minutes at 34 minutes and 4 seconds. We had 3 turnovers, and they obviously had none. First downs, we had 22 to their 27. Our defense couldn't stop them, which is a problem I did not foresee. I did not foresee this problem. Nick Foles by himself accounted for 352 yards and 3 touchdowns for no interceptions. So it kind of tells you how that's going out. And then red zone, Minnesota 0 of 3, Philadelphia 2 of 2. So this was a game where everything went wrong, and the only thing I really want to go over is this team is what they do. Vikings gonna Viking in the end, it appears. Almost every year, it's something new with this team. And I don't know, like, as a fan base, it almost feels like it's acceptable to some Viking fans. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Why can't we have high expectations for our football team? Everyone else has these Super Bowl aspirations. Us, it's more like, oh, well, gee, we made it there. Why are we content with just making it there? We need to actually win. And it's just games like these where it kind of feels like last week we kind of shot our wad and then it's done. And I know with those emotional wins, sometimes you come out flat. And it's just, we had 70 yards rushing. They had 110. We're used to giving up about 30 yards less than that. On average, we had actually less penalties, only 2 for 19, and they had 4 for 55. But like the turnovers, we need to calm down on turnovers. Obviously, there was a pick six involved there. It was a very rough outing. We were 6 of 13 on third down. They were 10 of 14 on a defense that has only given up 25%. So it just doesn't sit right. And it feels like it never will, because it almost feels like we're not gonna win a Super Bowl, like, ever. It really does. Like, no matter how hard they try, even though at times this team is so snake bitten that it almost doesn't matter. And it's disheartening. It really is. Because the more we get into this, the more invested we get. They just keep giving us false hope after false hope. Something's gonna go wrong almost every time, and it's almost guaranteed. Like, and I shouldn't have taken the bait. I shouldn't have taken the bait, but I feel like that's why I'm not falling as hard as I probably should be right now, because part of me kind of knew this was bound to happen, whether it was here or in Minnesota next week. So it's just, well, not next week, but 2 weeks from now. It's just all the other Viking fans. I want to know how you guys feel, because I personally do not live in Minnesota, but I have been there before, and the culture, even with the fan base, doesn't feel right. And I know there are obviously every fan base has the hardcore fans, but like as a whole, it seems casual. And I, I feel like you look at cities like Cleveland, they are not good. They are a bad football team, clearly 0-16. But that is a die-hard football town. I went into Minnesota, and the radio is doing trivia games instead of actually talking about sports radio, which they are hired to do. And it just doesn't, the whole culture needs to change. All of it. I feel like the team's culture is changing, but what's around it needs to change. Our expectations need to be higher for this team. And as long as we're like, oh, gee, really well, that sucks. Like, they're not going to win. We need to have these higher expectations. Like, if you ever ask a Patriot fan how they take a loss, it doesn't sit well with them. Obviously they're not used to losing, but these are also the expectations they have for their team. They don't have these middling things. Like to them, and well, a championship game loss is unacceptable. We should not accept these things as lightly as we do. And personally, I feel like nothing will change until we start changing this narrative. So, like I said, this is more of a reaction than it is a recap. So, I really want to know what you other Viking fans think. I really, really want to know because I'm imagining I can already see getting blasted down in the comments. But I almost feel like this is something that needs to be addressed at a certain point. Because I know obviously I'm not talking to all of the fan base, just the ones that click on the video. But it's at a certain point, enough is enough, isn't it? At a certain point, it just makes sense. I mean, this is Philly, another snake-bitten franchise. If you can't get past a team like that, how do you get there? I want to know. We've now been absent 42 years from this game, and it was in Minnesota. We were one game away from actually doing this, and another year just down the drain. 13-3. I think it's only like the second or third time in franchise history that they've had 13 wins or more, with the only one being more, obviously being 15-1. So this team was rare. This doesn't happen in Minnesota. Minnesota does not get nice things. I feel like we know that. And that's why last week was so spectacular. It couldn't have happened to a more polar opposite franchise compared to what that happened with. It almost feels like the football gods just like looked at it like, oh, that was the wrong logo. So it just, I don't know, it just feels like this is now it just heart has just gone. And obviously now we get to look forward to off-season draft, free agency. Who are you going to keep? Who are you not going to keep? Case Keenum, is he coming back? Is he not coming back? Are you going to go with Teddy? Is there a possible Sam? Like, you look at all these things, and ultimately, it is what it is. For the season, it was 13-3, technically 14-4, if you want to look at it that way. Like, we didn't go one and done, obviously, which is good. At least we won a playoff game. But, so there is still improvement, but it's still not good enough. To me, this season was a failure. Like, once the season ended, week 17, to me, it was almost like if you don't win the Super Bowl, it's a failure this time around. Because you're the second seed. The first seed has Nick Foles, and you have the number one ranked defense in the league. You should win these games. You should be able to win these games. You have a dominant defense. You have an offense that's capable of doing enough, as long as they don't turn the ball over, which they did, and then the defense decided not to play today. Which I do think we need to be concerned about that, the fact that the defense, when it mattered the most, 2 games in a row, I might add, they buckled under the pressure. And that's a little concerning. So at that point, you kind of wonder, you might need that elite quarterback at that point, and you can't just settle for. Because I know, I'm not saying Case Keenum's a bad quarterback. I'm just saying he's not elite. You might need your elite quarterback in order to really carry this team off. Where does that leave you? Probably trying to draft somebody, but I can't see a team walking away from all 3 of these options that they have just in front of them. But yeah, I would really love to know what all of you guys think just about this season. Like I said, this is not really a recap of the game just because everything went entirely wrong. Like the first drive looked great. I thought, oh, cool, we might have a chance to grind clock and actually score, keep them off the field. All these things, it looked great. And then 38 unanswered points happened because the Vikings got a Viking. But please tell me what you guys think. I want to know. Just it was a great season down the drain again, and it seems to happen far too often up in the land of 10,000 lakes. But till my next video, which is probably going to be more of a better season recap of what I just did and looking forward into the off season, I bid you adieu.